This video is sponsored by PTCGLstore.com, a great place for you to buy Pokemon TCG code cards. Hey guys, in today's video, I'll be showcasing Ent's Zoroark EX from the new Journeys Together expansion set. Ent's Zoroark EX has 280 HP, it has 2 retreat costs, and it is weak to grass. And I'm guessing this will possibly be the new best draw engine in the format moving forward because of its ability Trade. Once during your turn, you may discard 1 card from your hand, and if you do, you can draw 2 cards. This ability you can possibly use in any type of decks, allowing you to draw a lot of cards. Its attack for 2 Dark Energies is Night Joker, and all it really does is to just copy one of your benched Ent's Pokemon. So this Pokemon is really relying on the attacks of other Ent's Pokemon, so you'll have to set them up as soon as possible. One of Ent's other Pokemon you can copy attacks from is Ent's Darmanitan, and you'll be using this mostly for its Flame Body Cannon. You discard all energy from this Pokemon and it deals 90 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, and it also deals 90 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. With the current format's lower tempo when it comes to setup and also post-rotation without mana fee, you could possibly use this to snipe and even be able to knock out 2 Pokemon with 1 attack. And just in case you want to attack with Darmanitan instead of Zoroark EX, you can power up its attack with Reversal Energy. The next Pokemon is Ent's Reshiram. It has 2 powerful attacks. The first one is Powerful Rage. It deals 20 damage for each damage counters on this Pokemon. So if your Ent's Zoroark EX can survive an attack leaving it with just 10 HP remaining, you can deal as much as 540 damage, which pretty much knocks out any Pokemon in the game. And its second attack is Virtuous Flame, which deals 170 damage, and this is practically the only attack that will give you a constant damage output throughout the game. And finally, we also have Ent's Sigilyph, and we're using this mainly for its Victory Symbol attack. If you use this attack when you have exactly 1 prize card remaining, you win the game. This is extremely helpful if you just need that one last prize to win, but your opponent tries to wall you off with their high HP Pokemon, and with that, you just basically ignore them and just win the game, which is pretty awesome. So as of right now, those are basically the 3 Pokemon that Ent's Zoroark EX can copy. And again, you just need to fulfill the 2 Dark Energies to copy their attacks. And with that, we also have an easy way to energize our attacks, and this is especially helpful when you discard your energies when you copy Darmanitan's attacks. You can use this Ent's PP Up item card. This will allow you to attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Ent's Pokemon. And as for the other cards worth noting, we also have Ent's Castle, and this basically gives all of Ent's Pokemon with 0 retreat cost, making it easier for you to switch between your Pokemon. And this is very helpful, especially when you energize your benched Ent's Pokemon with Ent's PP Up, and then you can just switch between your Pokemon so that you can keep attacking. And then we also have Petron EX. Thanks to its Subjugating Chains ability, this allows you to switch one of your Dark-type Pokemon into the active spot and poisoning that Pokemon. But that poison combos well with the Binding Mochi tool card, which adds 40 more damage to your attacks while your Pokemon is poisoned. But of course, late game you can also use Petron EX to attack, and if your opponent only has 1 prize card remaining, Irritated Outburst can even deal as much as 300 damage. And for my spec card of choice, I'll be using Unfair Stamp. You can use this card only if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck, then you draw 5 cards while your opponent only draws 2. This is a great disruption to potentially slow them down in the following turn, which may give you an advantage. Admittedly, this build is a bit on the slower side when it comes to setup, so going against basic builds that are very aggressive attackers I think will give this deck a harder time. But this deck does have a copy of the Pokemon League Headquarters Stadium to possibly stall against those types of matchup, giving basic Pokemon attacks and extra colorless energy to its cost. And you really have to think twice whether this Ent's Zoroark EX deck is for you because it's not as explosive compared to some when it comes to damage output. You're not one-hit knocking out any Pokemon most of the time, and you're relying more on a strategic approach, and you're just spreading damage and taking multiple knockouts where it counts, especially between Darmanitan and Reshiram's attack. So again, with this deck, you'll have to consider what type of playstyle you prefer. Overall though, this deck definitely has potential. Anyways, that's pretty much it. You can find the complete deck list in the description below, and now please enjoy the following gameplay videos showcasing Ent's Zoroark EX. Before we get into the video, I have a small request. If you're liking the content I create, please leave a like to this video, and please support this channel by subscribing if you haven't already. This is a small click for you, but for me, it means a lot. Thank you so much for all of your support. Alright, on to our first match. So I will be going first here, and we're starting with 2 basic Pokemon. So we have Ent's Zorua in the active spot. We have another one on our bench, and we do have an S-Ball, so that's going to help us to get another basic Pokemon from our deck. And for our first match, we're going against Hop's Zacian EX. So one of the newer decks in the new set. I'll definitely have to showcase that in this channel at some point in the future. For now, I'm going to use Nest Ball, and I'm going to set up Ent's Darumaka. So one thing you have to keep in mind with this deck is that you do have to set up Ent's Pokemon before you can copy their attacks. So for example, Ent's Darmanitan is a stage 1. You do have to evolve into that stage 1 before you can copy its attack with Zoroark EX. I'm hoping to slow down my opponent here with Pokemon League Headquarters to increase the attack cost by 1 more colorless energy. But never mind, they're going to use Post-Quick Stadium to get rid of our Stadium. And that's part of Hop's combo. And that Stadium increases Hop's Pokemon by its attack by 30 more damage. And not to mention, they're also using Iron Valiant EX with Techno Radar. They get 2 of them. If they switch it into the active, its ability Tachyon Bits can put 2 damage counters to one of our Pokemon. And not to mention, they also have Hop's Vitality Band. And that's going to increase Hop's Pokemon's attack by 30 more damage. So they're going to use Tachyon Bits, put 2 damage counters to Darumaka. They're going to switch back to Zacian EX, and they're going to use Insta Strike. And they're dealing 90 damage, knocking out our active Zorua, and dealing 30 extra damage to our Darumaka. So we're at a brink of death here. They've already taken 1 Pokemon. We drew into another Arven. I could use Ultra Ball to get an Ent's Darmanitan. We do have Reversal Energy in our hand. But let me just get these 2. So we have TM Evolution if we need to evolve into 2 Zoroark. But then again, we have no attack to copy. So that's one of the downside to Ent's Zoroark EX, is that it's very reliant on the attacks that is set up on your board. For now, I'm going to use Ultra Ball. Again, I could get Darmanitan, but it's probably better if I drew into more cards. So I have 2 options. I could get Ent's Zoroark EX, or I could get Pheasantipede EX. I think I'm going to go for Pheasantipede EX. Just in case I don't draw into anything good, they knock out one of our Pokemon, we can draw into more cards. But we did draw into Ent's Darmanitan, so I'll take that. We do have Reversal Energy that can fully power up Darmanitan's attack. So we're dealing 180 because Zacian EX is weak against fire, and we're also dealing 90 damage to one of their Iron Valiant EX. So they could just knock out Darmanitan here, but that's fine. We can draw more cards with Pheasantipede EX. And hopefully Iono can help us draw into Zoroark and be able to draw into more cards. But yeah, Hop's Zacian EX is pretty dangerous. For just 1 colorless energy, it deals a 30 base damage, and then with so many attack modifiers in Hop's combo, it's a very it's a very disruptive attacker, in a sense where if you're relying on like a stage 2 or stage 1 evolution, all your basic Pokemon are targets to getting knockouts. So Hop's Zacian EX can take multiple knockouts if it needs to. But yeah, so many attack modifiers. Thankfully, our Pheasantipede EX survived, even though they bossed it into the active. I could use Patron to switch out my Pheasantipede EX. Let me use Iono for now. I'm giving my opponent more cards, but I have no other choice here. Ooh, we got Unfair Stamp though. But they didn't knock out any of our Pokemon last turn, so we can't really use it. Nothing to recover. But you know what I could do, actually? Since Zacian EX has low HP, I could use Defiance Band, and Ent's Zorua can just knock it out, dealing 50 damage. Thankfully. And that should give us a time to breathe for the meantime, hopefully. So that's gonna get 2 prizes. That's not too bad, man. I think they should have just taken out my Ents Darmanitan. And I think if you do go against Ents Zoroark EX, it's better to focus on the Pokemon with the attacks, right? So that Ents Zoroark EX can't copy those attacks if they are not set up on the board. So most likely you'll have to set up more than one Pokemon in which Zoroark EX can copy those attacks. But thankfully we do also have Ents Reshiram in this deck as well. So it's a basic Pokemon that you can easily set up so that you can copy those attacks. So you do have options. But thankfully, my opponent with limited cards, hopefully they can't set up another Zacian EX. But they do have Snorlax. And Hop's Snorlax also increases the attack damage output for Hop's Pokemon. So again, that's 90 damage with all of Hop's attack modifiers in play, which is pretty insane. For now, they're gonna switch into their other Iron Valiant EX because of the future booster energy capsule. It reduces their retreat cost to 0, so they can easily retreat. But now this Iron Valiant EX is stuck in the active. Not sure if they can retreat it next turn, but Hop's Snorlax EX attack does require a lot of energy, so thankfully they're just gonna pass. So we do survive. We have Ents Zoroark EX, so I can finally evolve into at least one. So I'm just gonna evolve my active for now. Remove that poison, and then I can start using the trade ability. So we can discard one card from our hand, draw 2, and then by setting up those energies in the discard pile, we can also use Ents PP Up item card to accelerate an energy to Ents bench, to the bench Ents Pokemon. So I'm gonna use Night Stretcher to recover this energy, I think. I just want to attack with Zoroark for the meantime. And while this Iron Valiant EX is stuck in the active, I could just continually to attack with Darmanitan's spread damage. But let me use Iono. I need to set up more here. Ooh, we got another Ents Zoroark EX. And another Ents PP Up. So we can use another trade, discard this energy, got another energy. We got Ents Castle, we can easily retreat now, and also that removes their post-week stadium, decreasing any attack of Hop's Pokemon. So for now, I think I'm just gonna use Night Joker to copy an attack here, so we can use Flame Body Cannon. That will discard my energies, but we have a way to switch out and also to energize our attacker. So we'll deal 90 damage to the active Iron Valiant and another 90 to their benched Iron Valiant EX. So we can take multiple prizes. My opponent will use Hop's Bag. They'll set up Cramorant. That is Hop's Cramorant. And it can deal a lot of damage for a single energy. Look at that, 120. But their opponent has to have exactly 3 or 4. So we do have 3 or 4 prizes remaining. And they can attack for a single energy for 120. Okay, so thankfully they weren't able to attack. And I'm just gonna slowly energize the second Zoroark. I'm gonna use trade to discard Ents Castle. Draw 2. We got another Iono. Okay. Let me use another trade. Alright, Darmanitan. So thanks to Ents Castle, we have 0 retreat cost to Ents Pokemon. And then I think I'm just gonna attack. I'm not gonna use Iono. So I'm gonna copy Flame Body Cannon once again, dealing another 90 damage to their Iron Valiant EX in the active, knocking out their second one on their bench, and that's gonna get us 2 prizes. So all we have to do is knock out this Iron Valiant EX, and we'll get our last 2 prizes to win this game. Not too bad. So again, they're gonna replace our stadium with Postwick. They have another Zacian EX. And they're gonna pass again. Alright, we just need another way to energize our Pokemon to attack, and we should be good. So I'm gonna use Arven. We do have another ENS PP up, which is pretty awesome. We have Petron EX to switch into the active, and we have Earthen Vessel to get the last energy, and we should be able to win this. But my opponent concedes. There it is. Good game. Alright, moving on to our second match. I had to mulligan once, but now we're starting with Fastendipity EX in the active spot. That will also allow my opponent to draw one extra card to start their turn. And my opponent will be going first in this matchup. And they're gonna start with EVEX in their active spot. And you know, with Eevee, it's really hard to tell what you're going up against because it can evolve into so many different types. But they are using lightning energy, so I mean I could deduce they're probably using Flareon EX or perhaps Jolteon EX. For the most part, I think those are the most common. And they're gonna set up 2 more Eevees on their bench with Buddy Buddy Poffin. But thankfully they can't attack just yet. Hopefully Fastendipity EX will survive their next turn. They're just gonna pass. Alright, cool. So it is our turn. We don't really have much to work with here other than Iono. So I'm just gonna do that. Hopefully we can set up other basic Pokemon on our bench. So we got ENS Darumaka, which is great. We also have Buddy Buddy Poffin. So I'm gonna set up Badoo and also at least one ENS Zorua. But no way for us to retreat Fastendipity EX, so I'm just gonna pass. Very unfortunate, but I could have item locked them. But no way for us to retreat Fastendipity EX. They will use Terra Orb. They're gonna get Flareon EX. Alright, well, if they have Crispin, they can get the 2 energies that they need to fully power it up. They can deal 280 damage to knock out Fastendipity EX. But there's so many ways to fully energize Flareon. I mean, if they have Sparkling Crystal, they can also attach it to this Terra Pokemon, giving it 1 energy of every type. And they're just gonna attach a Fire Energy. Yeah, so again, with ENS Zoroark EX, you do need to set up another ENS Pokemon on your bench for you to copy the attack. They're gonna boss my ENS Darumaka though, which is pretty bad. And they're gonna use Burning Charge, dealing 130 damage, knocking it out. And that also allows them to choose one of their Pokemon to attach, I think, up to 2 energies. And they're gonna attach a Water Energy to Flareon EX. Okay, well, it is fully energized now. They can deal 280 damage on their next turn. But for now, I think I'm just going to pivot into Badoo. I mean, we can always just retreat it. It has 0 retreat cost, so we'll do that. Hey, we got Unfair Stamp. Let's go ahead and evolve into ENS Zoroark EX first. Use Unfair Stamp. They did knock out one of our Pokemon last turn. So we can draw 5. My opponent draws 2. And we got Buddy Buddy Poffin. So we got another ENS Zorua. And then we can use Fazendipity's Flip the Script to draw 3. We got 2 Darumakas, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I could set up 2 just in case they start targeting another before we can evolve into ENS Darmanitan. But let me go ahead and use Trade for now. Sacrifice 1 Arven to draw 2. We got at least 1 basic Dark Energy. And I think I'm just going to use or set up ENS Darumaka for safety. And then we're going to use Arven to get ENS PP up. Maybe we can attack this turn, but again, this deck is pretty slow going as far as setup because you do need to evolve before you can do anything. Unless we can get Reshiram, which actually doesn't have the attack power to knock out this Flareon EX. I think I'm just going to go for Counter Catcher, and I'm going to go for Defiance Band. We are behind on prices right now, so what I'm going to do is actually just target this Hoot Hoot, I think. unless they can evolve, they have 2 cards in their hand. I'll attach a Dark Energy to Ent's Zoroark EX. I'm just gonna Itchy Pollen. With 2 cards in my opponent's hand, hopefully they don't have anything to help them draw. Maybe they'll get stuck, and then we'll figure a way out of this situation. Because at 270 HP, Flareon EX is gonna be very difficult to knock out. And with that 280 damage output from their Flareon, our Ent's Zoroark EX is also in danger of a one-hit knockout. So that's gonna give my opponent an easy 2 prizes. And I think that's one of the downside to having a focused Ent's Zoroark box. As of right now, we just have limited options to Ent's Pokemon. Unless we get other Pokemon cards in the future that has stronger attacks, I think for now, Ent's Zoroark EX box is a little bit difficult to work with. It's just very weak for the most part, unless you can get around taking multiple knockouts and stuff like that. So, thankfully my opponent didn't get to attack. They couldn't retreat their Hoot, but they are trying to prep another Eevee on their bench for another evolution, but with 1 card left in their hand, maybe that's gonna slow them down quite a bit. So I'm just gonna use trade and just continue to draw. We did get Ent's Darmanitan. Finally, we can evolve that. Now we can start copying its attack. So for now, I mean, I could use... Yeah, it's really difficult for me to attack with Zoroark. But I can attack with Ent's Darmanitan, hit for 90, maybe take 2 knockouts. I'll just sacrifice Reshiram for now to draw 2 extra cards. And then I'm going to use Flame Body Cannon, take out this Hoot, and also their other Eevee on their bench with the Sparkling Crystal. So now at least they're 1 less Pokemon that they're setting up. Maybe they won't have another attacker. But then again, this Flareon EX is still pretty dangerous to go against. At least they're only taking 1 prize by taking out this Darmanitan, and we have a reserve. We just have to evolve the other one, and then we should be good. But they're gonna use the 280 attack. But you know what? I think, yeah, that should prevent them from attacking next turn, and this should give us a chance to 2-hit knock out this Flareon EX, right? So we do have the Dark Energy that we need to fully energize Ent's Zoroark EX. We can use Flip the Script to draw 3, and then I can get Ent's Reshiram so that we can copy its attack. We don't have to discard it. That's the only downside to Darmanitan's attack as well, is that you do have to discard energies, all of your energies, just to make that 90 damage. But as of this point, again, it's really hard to one-hit knock off Flareon EX, but we should be able to 2-hit knock it out with Reshiram's attack. I'll just continue to use trade. That way I can widen out my options. Let's use trade one more time, and I can sacrifice. Actually, let me get rid of Nest Ball. We don't need it. And we got Pokemon League Headquarters. I'm not sure if it's gonna be too useful, because it only applies to basic Pokemon. But then again, if they are able to power up their EVEX, that might prevent them from attacking. So I'm just gonna use Night Joker here to attack, and we're just gonna use Virtuous Flame, copying Ent's Reshiram, dealing 170 damage to their Flareon EX. Thankfully, they're not able to use their second attack 2 turns in a row unless they switch out this Flareon EX and then back again. But they do have a switch. If they have an energy to retreat this Eevee, they can attack for 280 damage. But no, they're just gonna attach it to EVEX on their bench. I think that's an opportunity missed right there. That was a huge blunder from my opponent, I think. But regardless, I think we can still knock it out because we have all the components here to fully energize another End Zoroark. But I'm just gonna take this opportunity to just knock out this Flareon EX, getting us 2 more prizes, and we're well on our way. Not too bad. So we got Ents PP up and Ents Zorua from our prizes. So that's the only thing with this Ents Zoroark EX build. It's not explosive, you know. You're not taking one-hit knockouts, but if you can plan around dealing chip damage to multiple targets, for example, and then just copying Reshiram's attacks, I think you should be fine for the most part. But with nothing else, my opponent didn't even get to attack with 2 more prizes to go. I mean, we can't knock out this EVEX just yet, but we have plenty of time, especially my opponent doesn't have any cards in their hand. So I'm just going to continue with trade to draw cards here. We got another Darmanitan, so that we can actually knock out those 2 EVs. We just need a boss. Let's go ahead and use trade, draw into more cards, discard this Ents Castle. And there it is, we got the boss's orders. You know what, guys? We'll just boss 1, we'll knock out those 2, and my opponent concedes. Alright, good game. On to our final match. This time we're gonna start with Ents Reshiram in the active spots, and I don't really mind that. It's just gonna be a lot harder to retreat, but we do need Ents Pokemon in play anyways to copy its attack, and I think we're going against a mirror match. Thankfully we have Buddy Buddy Poffin, so we can set up 2 more basic Pokemon. So I'm just gonna go for Ents Zorua and Badoo. And again, we can't really retreat Reshiram, so I'm just gonna attach an energy to Zorua and just end my turn here. Unfortunately, we have really bad opening hand, and there's really no way for us to draw into more cards. Hopefully we can get them from our top deck. But sure enough, this is a mirror match. My opponent has been able to set up 2 Ents Zorua on their bench, another Ents Darumaka on their bench. They'll also attach an energy and then end their turn. Okay, we drew into another Zorua, but again, no way for us to draw extra cards, so I'm just gonna have to end my turn here. This is a really a really bad opening hand. My opponent finally evolves to Ents Zoroark EX. Now they can use the trade ability. By discarding 1 card from their hand, they can draw 2. And they got Ents Darmanitan, so my opponent's setup is going faster than mine. Thankfully, we drew into an Iono. I'll just attach the Binding Mochi, use Iono. Hopefully we can get Zoroark EX. We did not, but we got Ents Darumaka, so that's a start. And I think I'm just gonna end my turn here, because playing Ents Castle does benefit my opponent as well. If they retreat their Ents Darumaka, they can retreat into their Zoroark EX, and then they can just take multiple knockouts, and we don't want that. Hopefully they don't draw into Ents Castle. I'm pretty sure my opponent has that too. But with 2 Ents Zoroark EX available to my opponent, they're drawing 4 cards every single turn. So we have to hurry up with this setup, guys. This is really bad. They also have Reshiram, alright? They just have to retreat this Darmanitan. Ents PP up. Fully energizes one of their Zoroark, okay. Alright, we got an energy. I mean, what I could do is use Arven, get Ultra Ball, at least get one of my Zoroark here. I could even use the TM Evolution to evolve my bench Pokemon, but I think I'm just gonna go for Ultra Ball. I could discard this Darumaka, and then this Sigilyph. Go for Ents Zoroark EX. Can evolve at least 1, and then I can use trade, discard this energy, draw 2, but we didn't get much else here. I Can use Earthen Vessel to get more energies, but what for? I mean, I might as well just thin out my deck. So let me get 2 Dark Energies out here, and then I mean, I could fully power up Ents Zoroark EX right now, and then I can use Reshiram's attack to deal 170 to knock out this Darmanitan. I mean, my opponent's not knocking out my Zoroark EX either, but I don't think I'm gonna risk it, so I just ended my turn there. If my opponent cannot retreat this Darmanitan, I think I'm gonna take a knockout next turn. I'm just trying to hopefully set up another Zoroark EX. That way I'll have a backup attacker. And then go from there. Basically, I'm just trying to match my opponent's setup here, because they have 2 Zoroark EX already ready to go. And with Ents Darmanitan, they can take multiple knockouts as well. So they have more options. They will set up Fecundipity EX, but they're just gonna end their turn. Okay. Let's go ahead and use trade. Come on, give me another Zoroark, please. Discard that. Well, we got boss orders. But again, I can't really copy of any of the attacks other than Reshiram, so I mean, I can take a knockout against this Darmanitan. That's pretty much it. At least I can get ahead in the price trade. I mean, that's the best we could do, right? I'll power up this Enzurua, and then hopefully, if they knock out our Pokemon, we could just use Fecundipity to draw more cards. Although I can target their Reshiram, because it's the one that deals a lot more damage. If we can prevent them from copying this attack, I think we should be fine. So I'm just going to use Night Joker then, and I'm going to go for Virtuous Flame, copying Reshiram's attack, knocking out my opponent's Reshiram, getting us our first prize. And I think getting ahead in the prize trade will go far in this matchup. And we did get an unfair stamp from our prizes, so that's great. And like I said, my opponent should not be able to knock out my active Zoroark. I mean, they can knock out one of our bench Pokemon by copying Darmanitan's attack. They did get another Reshiram though. They'll use Ends PP up to power up their second Zoroark. They also have another tool card that allows them to attach a discarded energy in between between Pokemon checkup. They're gonna use Iono, but that's okay. That gives us a fresh hand here. We got a lot of support cards which can help us. And we also have Petron EX. That way we can increase our Zoroark EX's attack. Especially it has Binding Mochi attached to it. They did counter catcher my Zorua though. They're trying to get an easy knockout. By discarding their energies, they can knock out my active as well as either Badu or my Darumaka. But Darumaka is definitely the best choice, preventing us from copying its attack. So by copying Darmanitan's attack, they knock out 2 of our Pokemon, and now my opponent is ahead in the price trade. Alright, well, I'm just gonna pivot into Ents Reshiram. We do have Petron EX, so we can always just switch Zoroark EX into the active. But we drew into another Ents Darumaka, so I mean, I could prevent them from taking 2 knockouts. However, Darmanitan could be useful in the future. You know what? This Fecundipity EX is within knockout range actually, and that's gonna prevent them from drawing extra cards. But let me just flip the script for now. Okay, we got Reshiram. With the Binding Mochi, if we can deal 170 plus 4, 240. I believe that's 210. Right? But let me just keep drawing cards first. Alright, we got Defiance Band. That could actually help us out too, but not by much. Although we already have a tool card on Zoroark EX, so we can't really use that, but yeah, I feel like I just want to take advantage of the knockout against that Fezandipity EX. So I'm just gonna use Petron EX ability to switch Zoroark EX into the active, poisoning it, increasing its attack thanks to the Binding Mochi tool card, and then I'm just gonna boss this Fezandipity EX. And I mean, we don't have a backup Zoroark EX on our bench. That's the only thing. I regret setting up Badoo now. So I'm just gonna go with Night Joker, take advantage of this. Virtuous Flame deals 210 damage, exactly what we needed to get a knockout against their Fezandipity EX, getting us 2 more prizes. And I think one way we can win this is if we... I mean, my opponent has the same capability to knock out Fezandipity. So if they have a boss orders, they also have Binding Mochi, and they also have Petron EX. So they can do exactly what we did. If they knock out either Fezandipity EX or our Petron EX, they can take 2 prizes. But the thing about it is that at least they can't knock out my Zoroark. But I think they're going to go for a double knockout here. They're going to use Unfair Stamp as well, leaving us with 2 cards left in our hand while they draw into 5. And again, with the trade ability, that allows them to draw even more cards. So I think for the most part, we have the same deck list, except without the Hourglass tool card there. But I think that's a very genius idea. When you use Darmanitan's attack, you do discard energies, but you can recover at least 1. So they're gonna go for Night Joker to deal 90 damage to Badoo and Darumaka, getting them 2 more prizes. And I think they just need a boss orders to win this game, guys. And again, the tool card allows them to recover 1 energy to reattach to Zoroark EX. But we did get an Iono. That will actually dwindle down their cards to 2. And I don't know how that Pokemon League headquarters will help, but maybe it will. We can also use Flip the Script, despite only being able to draw 3. And I don't know, if I set up another Zorua, again, my opponent just needs a boss orders. I just hope they don't draw into it, but if we can just knock out a 2-prizer here, we should be able to use Sigilyph is what I'm thinking. Hey, we got Counter Catcher. Yo, I think we could do this. So what we could do is, again, take advantage of the Binding Mochi, use Counter Catcher to get this Petron EX, dispatch it, get 2 prizes, and then we'll just take the last prize by copying Sigilyph's attack. I mean, we have Night Stretcher in our hand, right? So they've used 2 Counter Catcher. Again, they only need a boss's order to win this. It's all on RNG, guys. Yeah, we can definitely use Sigilyph. So I'm just gonna go for it. It's either my opponent has it or they don't. Let's just go for it. So we're gonna use Subjugating Chains to switch Zoroark EX into the active. That will poison it, increasing its attack thanks to the Binding Mochi. And when we copy Reshiram's attack, we're gonna deal enough damage to knock it out, getting us 2 prizes. So let's just go ahead and do that. Night Joker, Virtuous Flame, dealing 210 damage. Take a knockout, take 2 prizes, and that leaves us with 1. And the thing about Zoroark, again, because we're hitting for just minimal attack damage output, it makes it really difficult when you're going against high HP Pokemon. And we did already use up, or at least discarded, 2 of our boss orders, so getting through this Zoroark EX is definitely difficult. So we are counting on Sigilyph to get us out of here, but my opponent's gonna use Iono. That's gonna put us down to 1 card, but we got an Arven. Yo! I think that's alright. We can get an item card, we can get the Night Stretcher. As long as my opponent does not get a boss orders, they already used Iono. As long as they don't have Counter Catcher, I think we should be fine. We just have to recover a Sigilyph, put it on our bench, and then we should win this game. So my opponent's just gonna hit Zoroark for minimal damage. And you know what? With Reshiram's Rage, powerful Rage, we're not gonna take a knockout with just 90 damage. So I think I'm just gonna go for it, guys. We're gonna go for Night Stretcher with Arven and Defiance Band. And we're just gonna recover our Sigilyph, put it into play, and we're gonna use Victory Symbol. And we're just gonna win this game. And my opponent concedes. Good game. And that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching the Popsicleknight channel, and until next time, please stay safe and have a great day.